Countries where cheek kissing is a common greeting. Obviously, you can tell from my voice that I do not live in one of these countries. Now, TBH, this is not that weird of a thing to me. I mean, you can kind of see it all the time. Have I ever actually done it? No. I feel like I'd be a little nervous. What if I mess up, do something wrong? Now, cheek kissing is also not equal in every single country. A lot of cultures do it a little bit differently. Funny how you can find this trend in all of the former Roman Empire's territory. Well, except for the UK. Oh, and then also no Austria. Yeah, the Germans really aren't fans of this. All of the Arabic countries, including all of the Middle East, is down for it. Most of the former USSR. I'm guessing this is the Spanish that imported this to the Philippines. I just think it would be so awkward if I ever tried this, because I don't think people would look at me and assume I would be doing this. I'm just not brave enough to take the risk. Now, this is what I was wondering. It would be interesting to see where the greeting is a one kiss sort of thing or two kisses. Yes, and there is 3, 4. Parts of France is 4. I thought in certain countries they'll do it on the lips too. In Brazil, you only kiss if one of them is a woman greeting a woman, or a man greeting a woman. If 2 men meet, it's a handshake. I really want to say something funny right now, but it also getting in trouble. Touching cheek to cheek is enough. Of course, that would be similar in Portugal. That's their daddy. I'm from Brazil and I lived in California for 6 months. I was very surprised people don't cheek kiss there as a greeting. Yeah, like this is a perfect way to describe it. I think I'd be a little scared. I, a Mexican man, never had a more awkward moment than trying to greet a Japanese girl with a kiss on the cheek. 21-year-old me learned a lesson on cultural differences that day. Apparently this is also practiced in Quebec too, which is obviously the French part of Canada. So it is just a cultural thing, usually from like a Romance language country, or well, yeah, there's Arabic and Slavic. Here's a bigger breakdown for anybody that was curious. Also, it includes some of the countries that weren't seen before in just certain specific areas. Of course, it still might be an extremely uncommon thing, but maybe in certain states it can be seen occasionally. This shows how in Latin America it's usually just a one kiss sort of greeting, but in parts of Brazil and this area of Uruguay, well, it could be 2 and as high as 3. Is that Afghanistan? That is an 8 kiss thing? I would not have expected that from them. Yeah, parts of France goes very hard with the lots of cheek kissing. Oh, this one does have Austria. Yeah, I definitely just can't imagine the Germans doing this, or the Nordics, or yeah, definitely the UK. This is an old map of an idea known as the natural borders of France, made by none other than Napoleon Bonaparte. Of course, he'd be the one trying to expand to France here. So funny enough, he doesn't really touch the border with Spain or Italy. He lets Geneva, Switzerland still be Swiss. The changes can mainly be seen here in the lowlands, while the Dutch get to still exist, but no more Belgium, no more Luxembourg, and Germany's lost like all their west side. I mean, if you think about it, this is basically what he did with the French Empire. Well, he actually made it even bigger than just that, but we're not including all the puppet states he decided to throw in the Europe around 1812. I mean, to be fair, I guess there's a difference between France's natural borders versus just what he's gonna take in general. So coastline and mountains pretty much define the southern part of France here, but then there's obviously this part of the continent, which is much more flat. You're kind of required to use rivers. This is also, fun fact, historically, why there was so much land changing hands around this time. There is just no natural barriers, so everyone's just gonna try to take things back and forth. I mean, there's the Ardennes forest, but that's really not much. The concept of natural borders in French predates Bonaparte, and he expands French territory considerably beyond these natural borders. Yeah, we just found that out. Now ask, what are the natural borders of Germany, and have a look at the intersections and wonder why Germany and France went to war so frequently. Again, this is what I was just mentioning. It also explains Poland and Russia and just why Europe fought so much. It's all flat up there. No wonder borders just went back and forth specifically in this area. Although let's not pretend like there weren't wars also in the mountain ranges. I think it was just harder for those borders to change as fast and as vast. The rights of women as of the last 100 years. Map on the left is 1923. In all the dark red countries over a century ago, forced marriage was permitted. Also, they were under male guardianship. In the light red, there's no forced marriage, but still under guardianship. So again, a lot of the Middle East, also Spain. Keep in mind, this is just after World War I, so we do have a interesting Germany here. Interesting that Spain was the only one, and then Albania here in Europe. Compare that to the green countries where men and women were equal in marriage all the way 100 years ago. Yeah, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Sweden, and the Soviet Union. Oh, this map is not super... we have like Central Asia here. Maybe the Soviet Union let certain parts of their states kind of do whatever they want. Yellow countries are where women emancipated, but man is the head of the household. That's all of Oceania, then the British Empire, Ireland, Norway, Denmark, and all the Baltics. This map's borders are pretty accurate for the time, so I do wonder, like, did the Soviet Union kind of let these countries in their empire kind of do what they wanted? Because yeah, those Polish borders are accurate. Obviously, Ukraine and Belarus was under the Stalin regime. Oh wait, that was still Lenin. He'd take power a year later. Unmarried women emancipated, and married women under husband authority. It's a lot of Latin America, a lot of Europe, a lot of Africa, and obviously our 50 states very divided on this topic. Also Canada as well. Really like that they break a lot of these, some of the states down, some of the countries down from around the world. So that versus now in 2023, where most countries have it, men and women are equal in marriage. There's still a couple areas where, wait, did some countries in the Arabic world get worse? No, I don't think they got any worse, but they haven't made much progress at all on this. Those are places still where forced marriage is permitted. That's Afghanistan, Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Tanzania, Uganda. Interesting difference between India and their neighbors like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. What's going on here in Chile? That's literally the top comment. Chile! There's no forced marriage in Sri Lanka. This is very outdated. I would like to see some more sources here for these countries. This is allegedly Trump's peace plan for Palestine. It's a lot of P's there. Peace plan for Palestine. So obviously the green is a future state of Palestine. He also called this the deal of the century. This plan consists on giving 30% of the West Bank to Israel and all of Jerusalem, while the new country of Palestine would have a new capital east of Jerusalem. For compensation, the Palestina would have some territories on this desert that does not border Egypt, and proposed also economic aid from Israel and USA to the new country. Shii and Hoi 4. Yeah, you know, now that you mention it, EU 4 levels of border gore. I like the tunnel that will never get built. WTF is that? It's a concept of a plan. Brown Israel, green Israel, but in green. Babe, wake up! They're gerrymandering foreign countries now. This was definitely the first thing my eyes went to, but then also, yeah, this West Bank Gaza tunnel. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. Here are the top 10 navies currently by aggregated displacement. One thing I love about this graph is it uses accurate naval flags, and yes, if you weren't aware, the Japanese still use their no-no flag for their navy. Starting off the list, we have Turkey, then the Italians, then the South Koreans, which is incredible to see South Korea in the top 10 considering how small of a country they are. I'm assuming that might be to counteract a certain neighbor. If they're up there with France, then we have India. The Japanese having a bigger navy than India. I guess that shouldn't be shocking, but that kind of is the size differences of these two countries. Of course, Japan really relies on having a strong navy just to keep their country safe. Which, look at that, the same thing that the British have done for like centuries here. Royal Navy is still pretty powerful. Then we come to these two. We have the Russian naval fleet as well as the Chinese, both over 2 million tons here. I forgot the Chinese naval flag is close to the Chinese war flag. And then finally, this should not be shocking at all, the US police the oceans. That's how we have global trade. However, combining that Chinese and Russian naval fleets, they are getting awfully close to this. Of course, we'd be able to have allies on our side, like the English and the Japanese and the French. Another thing I find fascinating about this chart is look at how heavy the Russians have gone into submarines. The gray here is the submarine category, and they're beating out the USA according to this. But yeah, if you didn't know, this is basically how the US still has so much power, because we have such a strong navy and we literally patrol the seas all around the globe, keeping maritime trade protected. Keep in mind that graph is not necessarily showing the number of warships, because Russia, China, and North Korea apparently would have the US beat. However, modern navies and why largest does not mean most powerful. That is an important factor. Better way to look at it is top 10 most powerful navies in the world by total tonnage. The US is expected to remain the dominant global naval power in 2030. Also, aircraft carriers is a massive factor. The US have 11. The closest is 2. India's got 2. China's got 2. And also, those are not made equally. A lot of countries, you know, will have an aircraft carrier, but it's like half the size is one US one. Yeah, Russia loves their submarines. That's actually reminding me of a World War II Germany, the U-boats and their strategy for naval domination. Population growth by continent in 2024. This is a brand new map showing how many new people were born in each continent, and some of these results might be a bit surprising. Now, keep in mind, these are very likely projections. The numbers are probably not perfectly accurate. However, to start things off, we have Europe losing 1.2 million people. It's the only continent, in fact, assumed to have lost people this year. Again, that could be due to migration or just death, number of births, I guess, yeah, birth rate. Then we have Oceania coming up in the next spot. Not too bad, adding 500,000 in 1 year. And remember that Australia only has like 25 million people living here. You've got New Guinea. I have a feeling that actually a lot of this, the Oceania continent, could be being carried by New Guinea and these islands. Oh no, it was mostly Australia carrying the team on their back. They actually have pretty healthy numbers compared to a lot of the world that we're more worried about. I didn't actually realize that until now. Yeah, there's really not a whole lot that New Zealand can do. Even New Guinea's yearly population percentage growth, it does tend to decline every single year, at least past the year like 1999. Next up, the continent that grew the most was South America this year at 2.6 million people. Keep in mind, Brazil is a very highly populated country. Then it's North America at 4.6 million. Now, this is where things get shocking. Asia is actually in second place, even though they have the 2 most populated countries in the world, China and India, both with over 1 billion people. So even though Asia Asia has the two most populated countries. They are the most populated continent. They've got the most land area. They're obviously the biggest continent. They've got so many countries. They still got beat out by Africa here in 2024, who added 35 million people in a single year. The continent of Africa added all these other continents surrounding them combined. Of course, it helps that Europe literally lost 1 million people, but this is why when you see this topic talked about, demographics, population growth, there is a big focus point on Africa because they are clearly exploding. Now, we don't know when that's going to stop, but they are exploding more than Asia. Fun fact, the population projections for countries are constantly being readjusted and probably won't be as crazy as they're made out to be. Nigeria is projected to hit 750 million by 2100. Now it's down to, well, maybe only 500 million. So I made that comment in the very beginning here. The whole like population numbers thing is kind of a guessing game. I shouldn't say guessing, but we don't know the real number, but we can get pretty close. Asia's population is like 4.8 billion, while Africa's population is 1.4 billion. That's why I was shocked to see Asia wasn't growing as much as Africa. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yes, I think that conclusion is being drawn a lot from this graph. And a big old thanks to my patrons. I stole Drew Durnil's Robux and won't return them until he plays Cartwright into Drew Durnil. Alexander the Terrible. Argentinian Grandpa. I'm back, boys. aPhatNarwhal. Connor. I will literally revive DOOCHBAGGINS. If Drew doesn't realize Imperial Japan flag is the same as modern Japan flag. NordTyrol. Tambre. The Mexican 760. ZaneyBoi.